You're still watching Nigeria Decides on Plus TV Africa. An election is just 2 days away and a few parties have taken INEC to court. From the Court of Appeal in Sokoto State that dismissed an appeal against the judgment of the Zamfara State High Court, asking the Independent National Electoral Commission to recognize candidates of the All Progressives Congress for various offices in Zamfara State.
And to the ruling party, APC, accusing INEC, the electoral body, of working with the opposition party, the PDP. Now, what is happening with all these allegations and cases against INEC? Joining us now for the conversation on this, we have two gentlemen who definitely were with us earlier on. We have Ngozi Akandu. He is a legal practitioner. Thank you so much for joining us again. And we are also with Ugochukwu Ikeakor. He's a political analyst. It's good to have you, gentlemen, on this conversation. Now, all of this coming at this time, knowing that INEC has got a lot to do in preparation to put its house in order to ensure that we have free and fair elections. With all of these court cases, isn't it coming too late in the day? Let's start with you, Ngozi.
Well, I don't think it is coming too late in the day. Because
now, for them to make adjustments.
Well, I don't see any adjustment to come from the angle of INEC, especially in respect to the Zamfara State, whatever. Because what actually happened in Zamfara State is, let's say, a maintenance of status quo, you know, because already there has been a ruling from, you know, both. We can only argue over which ruling is more authentic. But now, INEC has chosen a particular ruling, which is to the effect that don't accept. A particular ruling came from Abuja, while another one came from Zamfara State. Now, INEC chose, I believe, the one that came later in time, which is to the effect that you don't accept. And we chose not to accept. So it has been that way. And the way it has been is a status quo which has been maintained by the Court of Appeal. So I don't think that there is any particular need now for them to do any adjustment. If it had been contrary to the ruling that they chose to respect earlier on, you could start talking about.
But then, of course, we also have the issue of the River State matter, where the APC, they are clamoring, they are saying that the APC must field candidates in the election. So that of Zamfara is a different case. Now we know that in all the places where we have court cases, it's different issues, and definitely there's no way INEC wouldn't have to, you know, check its house to be sure that it's doing the right thing at that material time. So would you say that it is still time enough?
Right. For me, I think for Zamfara, INEC has said that they're yet to get any court summon for them to proceed and for them to organize, maybe conduct a different election for APC candidates for various elective posts for in Zamfara State. And for what's happening in River State, I think there's a Supreme Court judgment that have said that the APC failed to present a candidate.
A stay of execution has been upheld by the Supreme Court.
So meaning that APC cannot at this moment present a candidate. It's sad, right? It's sad for APC supporters in River State. You know, I watched the clip when I came in here early where they were protesting at INEC office. INEC was instituted by the law. INEC cannot go against the law to please anybody. INEC is working within the ambit of the law. And we should try as much as possible, even for supporters of both party or for whoever, to understand that INEC is restricted. If the law says go, go. And that's why INEC will say, we're going to conduct an election so date before so date. We're going to make sure that you present your candidate so date before so date. So when you fail to do that, you're putting yourself in trouble. And for what's happening in the university, there's the Magnus Abbey faction, there's Rotimi Amechi faction that presented Tony Cole. And they all went to court to determine who is the real candidate. And at the end of the day, this is happening to the favor of the PDP guys in River State, because it will look like a walkover for them because they failed to put their house in order. And that's the same thing that happened in Zamfara. So in the process of trying to get INEC to do whatever they want INEC to do, they should not rubbish the independence of INEC and the ability of INEC to do their job. At this point,
what do you now make of the stance of the members of APC in River State that staged a protest today, and they said INEC is being selective in choosing or obeying which court judgments to follow?
But the Supreme Court supersedes or be the magistrate court, be the high court, be the appeal court, my legal practitioner. And the truth is that the Supreme Court has said this is it, and so INEC will follow that ruling. There might be an appeal court ruling that favors them, but the matter was taken to the highest court, and the highest court said that this cannot stand. So it's difficult, but for the APC supporters in Rivers State, I think, and the best thing for them to do is to respect what the court says.
Ngozi, do you think that we're going to see any postponement in Zamfara State or in Rivers State with all of these playing out?
You see, any postponement based on this position will be in bad faith. Because the law is very clean and clear. It has been interpreted by the people empowered by the Constitution to interpret the law. And we follow the law as interpreted. So I don't expect, if anybody wakes up tomorrow and then postpone these elections based on, well, I might be talking as somebody who does not have any sympathies for APC, but I'm going to try as much as I could to be objective here. The law remains the law.
And interestingly, Olisa Agbakoba also slammed the AGF for calling for postponement as well. Do you think that...
Olisa Agbakoba, the former NBA chairman, is someone I respect so much. And the AGF has come out from, the public spokesperson for the AGF, the Attorney General Federation, has come out to say that the AGF is not the one that instituted the case. And Olisa Agbakoba was saying that the AGF does not work for, the Nigerian AGF does not work for APC. How does it work for Zamfara State government? If Zamfara State government has an issue, they should take it up. They should get a lawyer or whoever to put their case. So Sabokoba is right, and I agree with him. The AGF should not, because as it stands, it seems that the AGF is dabbling into party affairs.
Okay, we'll just have to take a quick break. The conversation continues. This is Nigeria Decides, and we'll be right back.
Glad to have you back, and before that short break we were talking about fielding or not fielding candidates in Zamfara and Rivers State, and still staying with us we still have Ugochukwu as well as Ngozi. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for staying with us. Now I want to have your feel on Oshomale's stance where he alleges that PDP is working with INEC. Are you surprised or not surprised? Do you think it's just politicking?
Well, I'm surprised, and I think it's politics as well. I expected to hear that from the opposition, that's the PDP led by Akandu and the spokesperson. So for the APC chairman himself, not the publicity secretary or someone else to say that, come out on national television to allege that PDP is working with the INEC, it shows two things: that maybe they're in panic mode, or they're afraid that they're going to lose, or only them know the third one.
Yeah, let's hear your thoughts.
It sends a very poor signal. You know, given somebody who is so vocal and so on and so forth, you know, he exudes such, you know, confidence every time he talks, even though some of us have problem with the extent of confidence. But this time, you know, him coming out to say that the people you are always seem to be trying to ride roughshod over are the ones who are actually doing things. But you see, it makes me have confidence in our democracy. You know, there was a time when we were discussing about, you know, have confidence in the judiciary. There was a time when we were talking about the ejection of, suspension of Onoge. We were all saying that the judiciary is under siege. But when you come to see the kind of, you know, judgments that are coming out these days, it kind of still restores your hope to the possibility that there may still be, you know, hope for us, despite, you know, what is going on around.
Okay, now let's take it back to what we were talking about before we went on that break. We were talking about the AGF's letter asking INEC to comply with the judgment of the Court of Appeal by admitting the results of APC Zamfara primaries. Now, from a report that I read, the AGF, there was a disclaimer that letter did not originate from him, and then INEC is saying that they did not receive any such letter. Now, but what if this letter is something to go by? Is tomorrow time enough for INEC to admit APC candidate and to say, oh, APC is also contesting in Zamfara? Is tomorrow, which is the bridge day between today and the election day, is tomorrow enough?
Well, the question is, to what extent is the AGF's letter, you know, superior to the ruling of the Supreme Court, of the Court of Appeal or the Supreme Court? The AGF, I don't see the relevance of the AGF's letter.
But of course, there were sections of the Constitution that were stated urging INEC to do according to section this, that. So with all of that, and given the fact that this is a highly rated judicial official, isn't his argument tenable now if we have to avoid a postponement, which is essentially what everybody is thinking about? How do we avoid the postponement in Zamfara? Because it will keep us waiting for the result for a long time.
I think at this point there's not going to be any postponement in Zamfara in River State. The Electoral Act clearly stipulates when to present a candidate before an election, and gives how many days or weeks for you to run your campaign, and give us the timeline from the day of election to the day of swearing in. So if INEC brings in anybody at this point for Zamfara, for APC and everything, is going to conflict that date, and it's going to put us into another constitutional crisis, in my own opinion. So I think at this point, it's just for APC to learn from his mistake, because this is an in-house matter they should have sorted out long time ago, and they didn't do that. And on the AGF, on his own part, his publicist person has said that the AGF, the letter did not emanate from his office, and despite the fact that we've seen evidence to show that this letter came from the AGF. So if INEC is there to receive the letter, the AGF is denying the letter. So let's just throw it away and ask INEC to do their job.
And now with whether or not to obey all of this court judgment and INEC making any changes, how do you also see these affecting the play out of petitions when we are looking at election tribunals? Because at the end of the day, when results are going to be announced, we would have conflicting stance, and then petitions will be raised here and there. How do you think this would also affect our election tribunals and petitions here and there, the pressure being put on them?
Well, for me, at this point, I don't think there will be issues, especially for River State and Zamfara State.
Yeah.
It's clear. What has happened is clear. There's a Supreme Court judgment for that of River State. There's an appeal court judgment for that of Zamfara State. So at this point, if after the election, most likely there are other parties in Zamfara and in River State. In River State, as in Lulu Briggs is contesting for one. I think the Ikeakor party, Wike is in the race. So these people are the ones that INEC, that has been empowered to conduct election in Nigeria, as far as the Constitution of 1999 Constitution is concerned, to run the election. So if they decide that at the end of the day, this is who they declare the winner, any other person that is not okay with it will go to the tribunal. But APC, I don't think they have a case to present here, because at the end of the day, they didn't bring themselves into the game, and you cannot be asking the referee to officiate the match that you are not involved in.
Now, talking about the situation in APC River State, there was a protest, and they are demanding that INEC should incorporate APC candidates in the election. Definitely, that is something that a lot of people are commenting on, and we are talking about it as well. Let us see this footage on what is going on in River State.
APC versus INEC. For that is unacceptable. They cannot choose for Rivers people who to vote or who not to vote for, because that is what they are doing by their action now. They have rehabilitated Rivers people not to vote for APC. Are we contesting against INEC?
The appeal court in River State also sustained that that particular state of execution should be implemented. As we speak, it has not yet been implemented, and we do not know the reason why.
We are here because appeal court have stated that order, and Supreme Court have sustained that order. Why has INEC refused to enlist our names for this election? INEC has an explanation to all the candidates of APC and Rivers people. If they don't give us a valid explanation why they are not going to honor a valid court order, we are not living here.
We are very aware of what is going on in the state, but you know that this office here cannot do anything on its own, except what is directed by the national office. There's nothing we do here.
Now, essentially, that is the situation in River State APC. Now, that protest is massive. Now, if these people are not allowed to vote for their candidates on election day, isn't that going to be a big disaster that we don't want to see? And let me come to you, Ngozi.
Well, it's a huge blow. I'm not going to deny that. It's a huge blow. But like I said, the rule of law must be allowed to take its course. The decision has been made by the highest body, adjudicating body in the land, and you must obey it. it's a pity. Staging a protest, well, you can stage protest as long as it's peaceful. There's not going to be any problem. But I think I heard one young man saying that we are not living here. Are they going to stop INEC from doing its work? This is where I expect the security operatives to come in.
I was just going to touch on that, because how then do you now expect the security situation there to change if things don't sway in their direction?
Well, like the legal practitioner said, there are rules for protest. It should be peaceful. And at this point, like we saw earlier, INEC is transporting sensitive materials across the country, and I believe across some the villages and the cities in Port Harcourt. The protesters should understand that the emotion does not have a place here. The court is the court. You might not like the judgment. You might not like the judgment. It doesn't favor you at the end of the day. But you should put the blame on the leadership of the party. And that's what some of them are here to do. The Magnus Abe and Rotimi Amechi crisis is what brought them to this point. And at this point, you should not put the blame on INEC. INEC is working with a Supreme Court judgment, and the Supreme Court supersedes appeal court. They need to understand there is a magistrate court, there's a high court, there's an appeal court, there's a Supreme Court, if I'm right. So if a magistrate court give you a judgment and you are happy, and somebody is not okay with that and it goes to the Supreme Court, and the people that have the right to adjudicate this thing says that what you have from the magistrate court is not an avoid. What you have to do is just to go home in good faith. Any other thing that you're doing, you are constituting a nuisance, and you're going to disturb the peace of the area.
Now, we know, of course, that you touched on something really important, the fact that sensitive materials are being transported at this time. And we know one thing with political party issues in Nigeria, emotions can run haywire, and then some people may even act irrationally and do things they would regret. So essentially, what should INEC and the security operatives in Rivers State be doing at this time?
I'm sure they've gone through their drills, in expectation that it's not going to be a complete roller coaster ride. These things are to be expected every now and then during, elections. So it's not as if these things that are happening are too strange. So I expect INEC to work in close relationship with the security, operatives to make sure that they clamp down on unnecessary protests, on protests that can derail the electoral process. They must work hand in hand to make sure that they are strong enough to, address any security challenges that come their way. And another thing I expect them to do, within these next few days, I expect, especially the news media, because some people who are protesting, against these judgments don't even know the history of this case, of these cases that have been, thrown away. A court made a ruling telling you not to do something. You went ahead and did it against a court ruling. You must be ready to face the consequence at the end of the day.
Contempt of court.
Yes. So how can you now turn around? You messed things up for yourself, and when you begin to reap the consequences, you're also coming out to protest against what you caused for yourself. So let them read the history properly and then be able to address themselves.
So for me, in line with what the president said earlier, I have to give him kudos for that, talking about peace and security during the election. I think at this point that I expect Rotimi Amechi, the former governor of Rivers State, who is the Minister of Transport, as a key ranking member in the APC, to call his supporters to order. He's like the leader of the APC in Rivers State. You should call them to order and to just take whatever that has happened as the way they see it, and that is what I'm expecting them to do, because at this point he has a lot of moral responsibility on himself to do that, and if he doesn't do that and this thing escalates into violence, I think it will be on his head as the leader of the party in Rivers State.
Now, so obviously APC Rivers State is a party in distress, but what we have seen, are we expecting that this kind of issue may spill over and portend a downturn for the president, because of course we know that definitely Rivers State indigenes and all of those who are to vote in Rivers will definitely have to vote for a presidential candidate. But then when we have issues like this at a state level, like what we also saw with the SDP, all of these internal party issues that have festered, how would it affect the national outlook of the party and the propensity of electorates to believe and to say, oh, even though we can vote for every other person under this platform because they could not contest, let us go ahead? Would it make voters say, This party is not serious.
Yeah, it will because it's communication. You're communicating something. If your house is in disorder and you are telling someone to give me your mandate to lead you, I think if you're a sensible person, you're going to ask yourself, these people, are they serious? So for me, for APC supporters in Rivers State, some of them will not be happy in the leadership of the APC. They're having crises all over Nigeria. It's not just Zamfara. It's not just Rivers State. We saw what happened in Ogun State a few days back, where the governor is a senatorial candidate of the APC. His preferred candidate is working with APM. Then in Imo State, the Rochas, same thing. His son-in-law is working with Action Alliance, if I'm correct. So at the end of the day, you see that it is a failure on their part. It's a failure on their part. They failed to manage their inter-party process very, very well. PDP used to have this issue in the past, but it seems that PDP lost and gave them that anointing, and they're running with it right now. So I think to an extent, it's good. They're going to feel the impact, because what happens is that they're not going to the election with a full house, like they did in 2015. They have issue in Southwest, they have issues in the North, they have issue in the South, and they have issue in the East. So at the end of the day, let's say, for example, if Tony Cole, his name was approved to be the APC Rivers State candidate, Tony Cole would have campaigned vigorously, and his supporters will as well as vote for the president, that's Muhammad Buhari, and vote for him. But as it stands right now, that's not going to happen. Despite the fact that in Imo State, Ngozi have told his supporters to vote for me and vote for the president. It doesn't make a lot of sense, because you are talking to people that are sensible. So a lot of them will feel that if you people can't get it in order this way, maybe I should look for an alternative.
So what lessons are supposed to be learned, especially at this point in time? Because at the end of the day, we think political parties should have an understanding of all of this communication that they are throwing out to the populace. How should they put things in order and then get their acts together? Because it's just a little bit an overflogged back and forth situation.
This is not peculiar to the major parties. Talk about the PDP and the APC. It's something that is a problem that is common with all Nigeria parties. We've seen the issue with SDP, where they're saying that they're supporting, the party has come out to say they're supporting President Buhari, but
a faction of the party.
A faction of the party.
Yes,
as I say that.
CPP supporting Atiku,
then Donald Duke is going on straight. Then we've seen what happened to the former Minister of Education, ACPN. So at the end of the day, I think we have a fundamental issue with how we form party in this country. Formation of parties seem to, as a process to get power or to be part of the power equation. So there is no honesty. Because if ACPN and SDP and the rest of them understand that the fact that this is not just about them, but there are Nigerians that believe in what your message, they will consider it wise among themselves to do things right.
So essentially you're saying that it is not just an APC matter, it's also a PDP issue, SDP, every party.
Is a Nigeria party affair.
How do we then begin to address this, since we know that there's no future in this, or do you think there is?
Well, the thing that is unfortunate this is happening to APC, but it's a lesson to everybody. It could happen to anyone. It's just unfortunate that it happened to. But one encouragement I want to give some of the die-hard APC faithfuls is that the rulings and the judgments as it concerns even Rivers State does not preclude voting for the president. So if you go there and you're an APC faithful, you can still vote for the president. Understand? Even though at the end of the day, the one for the president will be removed, while we know that no candidates have been fielded for the other,
Like at least they'll hold one.
Yeah, let them hold on to something.
Okay, thank you so much, gentlemen. We have definitely talked about INEC and the issues pending in court, and the fact that some states are definitely not going to be having it smooth and fresh as it is. So we will be continuing the conversation, but of course you can share your thoughts with us on social media, on Facebook and Twitter at Plus TV Africa. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. We've been speaking to Ngozi Akandu. He is a legal practitioner, and as well Ugochukwu Ikeakor, a political analyst. Thank you so much for joining us and for your thoughts as well.
And after the short break, we'll bring you the last segment of today's conversation. Don't go anywhere.